Hello my friends, this is Jeannie. I want to share with you how I cut down an 8 by 8 sized embossing folder to a size that worked with my Sizzix Big Shot. If you watched my Tuesday morning haul, my most recent one, you saw that I got 2 embossing folders at Tuesday morning that I absolutely loved. I got this 8 by 8 a stitch in time folder, and I also got, and the little image seems to be gone from it, but I also got an 8 by 8 butterfly one. 8 by 8 does not work in my Big Shot. It's way too big. So I needed to trim it down. Now, at first I thought I would just let my husband use one of his machines in his shop to cut it down for me. But he was afraid that the machines in his shop were a little too powerful and would shred the embossing folders to the point where they would no longer be usable. What he suggested, and what did work, was that I use an X-Acto knife and a straight edge. I doubted it. I really did. I didn't think it would work, but it did. So using an X-Acto knife and a straight edge, I was able to cut down the 8 by 8 to a 6 by 8. And the way I got it to a 6 by 8 was I trimmed off 1 inch from both sides of the embossing folder. So from the outside in on one side, I measured 1 inch, marked it with a marker. From the other side, I did the same thing, measured in 1 inch, marked it on the folder. Okay, then used my X-Acto knife to cut. I was able to do this folder and it turned out perfectly. It's fantastic. I am in love with this. And once I was done, what I did was I sanded the edges down a little bit using a plain old nail file. I have nail files that I pick up at the Dollar Tree to sand down little projects that I do at home, little craft projects. I use one of those nail files and got a pretty cool smooth finish on these. So here's the one I already did. I was about to do the second one. I thought that I would share with you the second one as I did it. So to mark the folder, what I did was I opened it flat on my craft mat. I used a ruler to measure in 1 inch from the outside in, okay, and then drew a line from the top to the bottom of the folder. Laid my straight edge against that line and used my X-Acto knife, no, not that's a marker, my X-Acto knife, and patiently, very patiently, basically traced that line along the straight edge, pressing down with my X-Acto knife over and over and over and over again until I got through. Okay, now what I learned after doing the first one was that instead of following the entire line from the top to the bottom, what you can do is first cut one side of the folder, okay, and once that one side is cut, you can then close the folder, follow the cut line on the second half, and get an exact match on the cut. I'll show you what I mean. Sometimes it's just better to shut up and show, you know, what's done, because seeing it sometimes it makes more sense than trying to explain it. So here's my line, 1 inch in, and here's the fold of the embossing folder. So I'm going to use the straight edge, and this straight edge has a traction grip on the back, which I recommend because first I try to use my Tim Holtz, and plastic on plastic slides all over the place. So I found it was just sliding and slipping and driving me insane. So I used one with a bit of a traction strip on the back, so I get more grip. So there we go. I'm going to line that up. Okay, here's an X-Acto knife with a relatively new blade. I mean, the newer your blade, the faster this will go. I don't use this X-Acto knife a lot, so this blade is as new as new is going to get. Okay, so I'm going to follow. I'm going to start from the fold of the embossing folder and work my way down. And the key here is patience. And my friends, I don't have a lot of patience. I really don't. So this was a test for me. But I did. So here I am. And I already feel it cutting through. Can you see that? Look. That's how easy with a relatively new blade. Okay, so did it cut? And this is where patience is key, because you don't want to force. Okay, so perfect. Look, just like that. Look at that. I was able to cut the one side. And this is what I'm talking about, closing it and then using the cut side, the side that it's already been trimmed, as a guide for cutting the second half. And that'll pretty much guarantee that your folders, both sides, match up, and you don't have like wonky where one side is a little wider than the other. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to follow. Follow, follow, follow. I am so excited that this worked. Hopefully my hand, I'm going to move this a little bit just in case my hand is blocking, so you can see what I'm doing. Patience is the key. Now, I do appreciate those who left comments suggesting that I try using a rolling pin as opposed to cutting the embossing folder down. But at the end, I decided to go ahead and cut the embossing folder down because, to be quite honest, I'm entirely too lazy to bust out with a rolling pin every time I want to use the folder. I would lose my mind. So let's see how far we are. Not quite. Okay, so let's keep cutting. I wasn't sure that this would work, but I figured I have nothing to lose and some great embossing folders to gain. So on these folders, one side is a little thicker than the other, and so still not quite right, and I'm not going to force it, so I'm going to continue to cut. And this is what I mean about being patient, because if you're patient, you get a nice little surprise, or not surprise, but a bonus at the end, and I'll show you that bonus as soon as I cut through. Ooh, I'm feeling it. I think that might. There we go. Not quite. Almost, almost, almost. Almost, almost. Oh yeah. That was it. That was it. That was it. Woohoo! So, there you have it. Cut down to a usable and structurally sound embossing folder. So if you decide for whatever reason that you don't want to cut and you know, an even measurement from each side in order to keep your pattern centered, just keep in mind that these embossing folders have tabs, and the tabs don't extend across the entire width of the embossing folder. So when you cut, you have to make sure that you leave enough of the tab so that your embossing folders are still attached and you don't get two separate pieces. So patience, this is where it pays off, because if you're patient and you're careful to cut off the 1-inch strips and in a way that doesn't crack them or damage them in some way, what you end up with are these 1-inch embossing strips. So how cool is this? You can use these to emboss the edges of papers, envelopes, cards, or whatever. And you end up with 2 of them. So how fun. If you damage one, you have the other. Maybe you want to give one away, who knows. But the point is that it can be done, because I did it. I cut down my 2 8x8 embossing folders to 6x8, which work perfectly in my Big Shot, and I'm super excited about this and can't wait to cut down other folders as I find them. I can't tell you how many times I passed up on some great embossing folders because they were too big for my machine. But now that I've figured out how to cut these, and now that I know how easy it is to cut these, you better believe that nothing's holding me back now. So I hope you find this helpful. And again, to those who, wow, I have some deep cuts in my craft mat from pressing so hard. Good thing it's a self-healing craft mat. But for those, as I was saying, for those who suggested that I try using a rolling pin first, thank you. And if I wasn't such a lazy crafter, perhaps I would have tried that. But to me, this was the way to go, because I don't have to worry about rolling pins and uneven pressure and all that stuff. Now I have 2 fantastic usable embossing folders. So thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. Until next time, bye bye.